welcome to today's discussion on 5G monetization, which will look at various different aspects of how service providers can maximize the business potential of their 5G portfolios. I'm joined today by three experts from Ericsson, so let's meet them. Helena Ola, Head of BSS Product Development Unit at Ericsson. Miriam Deasy, BSS Senior Solutions Marketing Manager. And Seda Dolan, Head of BSS Sales at Ericsson. So welcome everyone, great to see you. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a lot to get through, so let's head straight into the first question. Now, in terms of 5G monetization, how do you view the next few years? Do you think the new opportunities will outweigh the challenges? Helena, let's start with you.
I think it's a brilliant question, but for me, opportunities come with challenges, right? So if you look at the monetization of 5G, this requires creative billing and charging capabilities. And why I say that is to support the new business models that we will see with new charging entities coming in, and none the least, new models, new entities, but in a much faster expectation. We don't want to wait for long releases. We need to have more automation to actually bring it to market. And when we have done so, the customer experience is in focus, of course. The CPQ and the enterprise of ordering and orchestration needs to be in place. And all of that challenge is, of course, coming with these opportunities to meet the 5G evolution.
Okay, great. And Seda, where do you see things going over the next few years?
Consumer segment still represents the bigger share of the service provider revenue today. Therefore, we see that with the introduction of the 5G standalone, the CSPs will be focusing on launching the consumer-specific services initially. Being successful in consumer markets will be key to free up the investments. And in order to target the enterprise market for 5G, edge computing, network slicing, IoT, and industry vertical solutions, the CSPs have to define the role that they want to play in the ecosystem and accordingly define the industry verticals that they will be focusing on for the use case to be enabled.
And Miriam, how do you see things developing over the next few years?
So 5G uptake is happening fast. We knew that from the Ericsson mobility report. There's way more 5G net additions right now than there are 4G ones, and it's faster now at this point of 5G than it was for previous generations as well. So for sure, the original question is more opportunities and more challenges. Definitely seeing more opportunities. There's something very exciting about the ability to take so much more to market with ecosystem partners by exposing network capabilities to innovators, large and small, or working with them to create something new. And yes, many challenges. Definitely lots of challenges, but challenges that are worth the effort in the long run. The opportunity to consolidate the stack, streamline, standardize, maybe even at a group level if it's a group operator that we're talking about, reducing silos, all this good stuff. And we can see so many of our customers taking great strides in those directions, from Urdu, Telstra, Viva Brazil. This is all about facilitating end-to-end flows, workflows, data flows for the processes that traverse BSS and the neighboring OSS right through to the packet core.
Okay, great. So how will this broad new 5G related ecosystem work from a monetization perspective? And what does this mean for BSS? Miriam, let's start with you.
Sure. So the basic rules of any ecosystem apply, many symbiotic relationships in collaboration visibly and behind the scenes. And there's lots of different ways we break this down to look at it, but we typically approach it from the use case perspective, and we look at positioning in the value chain. So the CSP value chain positioning, and we have a slide on that actually, is one of the critical factors that's analysed when we think about this. We've got a whole series of e-briefs that break this down use case by use case. We're looking at consumer use cases like cloud gaming, AR, VR, fixed wireless access, enhanced video. We look at the stadium experience from the consumer perspective. And we look at the first use case that we've analysed from an enterprise perspective is augmented reality for inspection and remote support in smart factories. So there's oodles of explanations on this, some of which went out in our Unbox customer event. And we have a clip of my colleague Rayan Shaheen, who was involved in the writing of these e-briefs and who also worked with Israel Moore and Elizabeth Muller to present a lot of this materials in the unbox sessions that we had. So there is a clip here where she can explain the methodology that's at play when we're breaking down these use cases to figure out the ultimate goal, obviously, is the implications for BSS. That's why we're looking at them.
Ericsson has developed a use case-based methodology to demonstrate our BSS functionalities, focusing on 5G use cases selected from several fields of application and industries. The design process starts with defining business scenarios and elaborating on engagement models to help position the CSP within the value chain.
Okay, interesting to get that perspective there. Seda, what's your view on the ecosystem and monetization?
We talk about 5G being use case driven. In order to deliver these use cases to the end users, there needs to be an attractive ecosystem. So it's all about an ecosystem play. It's extremely important to find the right players and make sure that you are part of the right ecosystem as a service provider. And in order to attract these players, there should be a proposition that you are offering to the market. And these propositions can be superior network experience that is tightly integrated with the BSS systems, enabling an ease of collaboration, the digital experience that the CSP is delivering to their consumer and enterprises should also be delivered to their partners so that they can easily be onboarded, and they can be integrating their solutions or their applications through an open interfaces to the CSP environment, explore their assets, and then providing a flexible platform for the co-creation. So once the co-creation of services is done, then the partners would be able to deliver, market, sell, and operate the use cases that they will be delivering to the end customers. Support for business models through a configuration is another important key aspect. That also requires a real-time insight for the service uptake, insight sharing, and then the BSS platform should be able to scale up and scale down based on the needs of the ecosystem that will be realizing the use cases. In short, you need to be an attractive partner to be successful in the 5G monetization, and all customers are looking for a stepwise transformation and modernization to bring these capabilities into their BSS platforms.
And Helena, what does all of this mean for BSS development?
Well, I think both Miriam and Seda mentioned it already, but let me just emphasize from a system and product perspective, it's easy to tell what you need, but it's actually about creating an environment where you have more openness without proprietary interfaces. For all of those that are working close to product development, we're coming from a legacy where we have had a lot of proprietary interfaces, where this now need to come into a different situation. Also, when you have this massive amount of data, you also need to go for automation in everything we can do with the new flows, right? And when creating this together with the partners in these new ecosystems, you need to be able to expose this in a secure and efficient way. So service exposure is another key capability that the products need to enhance.
Now, at the heart of monetization is charging, and charging is changing with 5G. But in what way is it changing? Can you tell me more about this change?
Yeah, let me give you an example. What me and my team are focusing on right now is, of course, to implement the SBI capabilities. This is the service-based interface. As a function, it is similar to the GYSY function we have had in the charting and policy arena before, but the real challenge is maybe not on the functional side as such. It's actually to enable the capability of non-functional characteristics to flow in the same manner or even much better. And we're also introducing the REST protocol that introduces the new interfaces that we need to cater for. Also, when you look at the post-processing and the CDR generation, this is moving away from the network, which actually means that BSS systems also need to cater for that in their solution. And that is also something that is putting a 5.9 expectation on also those things. So for me, it's about focusing on the data and analytics and the generation of the same. But with the support of the coming technologies, we are also enhancing this. So SBI implementation to secure that we enable the full capability of the 5G systems.
And Seda, let's come to you. Do you have anything to add on this development?
We are seeing more sophisticated thinking and more specific customer requirements around data-driven approach in monetization, in customer care, but also in the customer interactions. We see more demand on real-time capabilities, not only on charging, but also on the billing, activation, orchestration, and even assigning the policies for the services. To do this, the network, OSS, BSS, policy control, front-end systems must be tightly integrated. This is where, as Ericsson, we have the advantage of experience. With the 5G platform offering that we have enabled the pre-integration starting from radio to core to cloud and OSS and BSS systems in order to provide these end-to-end use cases with agility and improved total cost of ownership.
And Miriam, what do these changes mean for you?
So take 5G charging function and 5G standalone together. You can use what's new, what's existing in terms of rating and charging features for the new use cases that take full advantage of 5G networks, which means we have a toolkit here for more granular charging mechanisms, more dynamic charging, and more differentiated charging patterns. And that gives the whole resplendent toolbox that's enabled to monetize any which way, whatever should come away from the network with 5G services.
Now, 5G obviously brings a great many changes across the entire functionality of telcos. What are the new concepts of value that 5G is introducing? Helena.
Yeah, if we look at the network developer role, which is already here now, that's it has the technology and the connectivity currencies. So when I talk currencies here, it's more like data volumes, quality of service, mobility, latency, and throughput. We already have that. But when evolving into a service enabler role, this requires platform services that expose and orchestrate much more attributes than we have had before. When I talk about attributes, I actually want to exemplify a few. For instance, the non-functional features we have in the systems, where we also look at security as a much important characteristics more than before. I think this is something that is raising in importance all over. But also the API exposure and device management is something that are capabilities that we have not used before. And in the service enabler role, these are becoming more important also, that the systems are supporting the same.
So if these kind of things are the new concepts of value in 5G, what does this mean for monetization? Miriam?
So, well, these concepts of value for monetization, they mean it's not just voice, it's not just data, but now we've got the possibilities with anything that we counted. If it can be counted and the charging function can understand it, then it can work with it, which means it opens it out to things far beyond the usual countable attributes that we would look at, into anything, miles, events, clicks, count it, charge it, whatever way it works. This is important. Like, it's not just important for monetization for the actual physical charging and billing, but it's also important for articulating value in the setting up of pricing, in the talking about the services and how they will be charged, and creating that understanding of value in the eyes of the consumer, potentially as an antidote to commoditization. And this also means that pricing strategies are under intense scrutiny right now.
And Seda, let's come to you. What do these new values mean for monetization?
CSPs haven't fully decided on their strategies, but we see differentiated pricing strategies based on the use cases that they will be offering. As we speak, there is a continuous learning experience where we analyze together with our customers the growth and the benefits that they will be generating. And accordingly, based on the value provided, what kind of a different pricing schemas can be implemented on the BSS platforms. I think because we will have a lot of values and new monetization parameters, it is really important to have a configurable configuration of these pricing strategies rather than doing based on development. As Helena mentioned, there would be the different roles, and as a network developer, the operators would be able to provide the value based on the data volumes, quality of service, mobility, latency, throughput. If they evolve in the value chain as a service enabler, we will see new monetization parameters like network slices, service level agreements, security levels, consumption-based models for the edge and cloud resources that they are delivering, or the orchestrated services, and even the volumes consumed for the APIs. The more they move in the value chain as a service creator, we will see a lot of more parameters that will be specific for the industry verticals.
So thanks, Seda. And so Helena, what does this mean for monetization?
Yeah, exactly. Like Seda said, this means we need to collect a lot of new information from new sources and interacting with new ways with the networks and operating support systems, right? So I would say that it's not only about the interaction in itself, it's also how we enable the CSPs to handle the new ways of monetization. And of course, this requires more from our systems in general.
So we're talking here about new ways of monetization and also about flexibility. How is this new flexibility being implemented? And is this about configuration rather than customization? Helena?
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant question actually, because if we look from legacy and a bit backwards in time, we come from a very customization oriented solution thinking. But with these new ways of developing systems and also how we are reaching out for more data in the 5G networks, we will see new, if you say, currencies or parameters that we need to take care of to enable the new monetization models, which means configuration is key for rating or for invoicing, so we actually can manage that. And also, if you look into the configuration as such, it's not only that we provide this for the CSPs, it's actually to support the over-the-top providers with new settings, right? And that we enable through B2B hierarchies, for instance, and how we manage partners in general, but also for the massive device handling, which IoT will bring with all that data coming in from new sources. So that's more or less how we are supporting the new need for configuration.
And what does this mean for partnerships and partners in this whole ecosystem? What role will they play? And how does this look in terms of the BSS development? Miriam?
So a lot of it stays the same. The traditional network developer, as we term it in our value chain positioning terminology, as the connectivity provider, it's not going away, it's not being invalidated. And now there's just so many additional options here, in addition to that role potentially going beyond connectivity, right? The volumes and ranges of what we expect to see, that's where it starts to look different. So we expect more partners, we expect different types of partners, more engagement models and more business models. So it's more about having the flexibility and agility and being nimble enough to maneuver around this value chain in differing capacities. And it could be, on one, for one segment, you might be one role, and on another segment, you might be another. There could be an enormous granularity here. So within BSS, some capabilities need to be combined to enable charging for partners, including multi-party charging, revenue share, billing on behalf.
And Helena, how does this look in terms of the BSS systems?
Yeah, I think, like Miriam said, enabling partners for the operators to actually have a new ecosystem. I mean, there we have already in the B2C arena the best-in-class experience. And here, the real-time management we already have, we want to enhance and build further on, also in the B2B arena. And there we are enabling more partners, of course, through B2B cases. And just as an example, again, if you talk about B2B, we're talking about multi-tenancy, to have more tenants in the same systems, and also that we have charging on behalf of partners for our CSPs will be crucial. And there, this is opening a new variety of cases we need to support.
Okay, interesting. And Seda, let's come to you on this about the role of partners. How will they get involved here?
The ecosystem of partners you will be able to build is naturally depending on the role you want to play and then the proposition that you can offer to them. So we see that most of the CSPs are already in the phase of engaging with different partners, especially for the enterprise services, as Helena mentioned. So these partners are for example, for the offered use cases, they're engaging with different device partners, they're engaging with different system integrators or application developer communities, but also with the hyperscale cloud providers. So customers are experimenting together with their ecosystem different business models to find out win-win situations, and based on the different levels of risks and reward share between the partner itself and the CSP, they are defining these pricing strategies. Co-creation for partners in the ecosystem demands more openness and more agility.
Now, much of what 5G brings is a faster transfer of larger volumes of data. But 5G also has some new tricks up its sleeve. So when we think about something like network slicing, for example, how do you see this working from a BSS perspective? Seda.
According to the report from ADL, the 5G use cases, 30% will require a network slicing capability. So the opportunity is there for sure, there is no more question. But the monetization strategies and the business models are still on exploration mode. To deliver a valuable 5G enterprise network slicing proposition, our customers are focusing on having a programmable and flexible network with advanced AI capabilities. SLA-driven orchestration, this will enable the network slice instantiation on demand in a very rapid way, and also providing flexible pricing and packaging in real time that is enriched with the notifications to realize the digital BSS. For sure, as Helena mentioned, automation of the business and operational processes is a must to be successful in this area. And network slicing is not only an opportunity for the enterprise segment, but it is also an opportunity for the consumer segment, where the CSPs can offer B2B2X services as well, such as, for example, certain applications like gaming, AR and VR services can be offered to the consumer, either directly or from their partners. And CSPs are strategizing and investing and testing various different services that they will take to the market.
So we have a question here from a member of the TelecomTV community, and I think it's a very interesting one. Do you foresee BSS versions for vertical industries? So in 5G, a lot of talk about B2B services. Do we need specific versions of BSS systems for specific verticals? Seda, let's start with you on this one.
Our position and perspective here is actually the CSPs will not be needing different implementations for different verticals. So the idea is having a convergent platform that would be able to handle different vertical industry solutions and then achieve this service creation and also the monetization aspect via configuration. There are some CSPs who are embarking on providing private network solutions, and in that category, there may be a need of a different instance deployment for the specific BSS solution.
So, Helena, are we looking at 5G BSS being a sort of, covering all the angles, but able to, have different functionality, maybe bringing different functionality to the table for customer specifics?
Well, I think what we're trying to do here now, I think we mentioned it many times already, but we are trying to go for configuration and enabling more entities to actually be solvable and chargeable and be able to monetize on new cases. So I fully agree with Seda, what she said. And I think we have, that is the whole thing we are focusing on right now, moving away from proprietary items and interfaces, enabling configurability and taking into account the new charting parameters we need to take care of.
So an awful lot to take in here, but a lot of opportunities, a lot of capabilities. How does this all break down to evolve the BSS product line? And how is Ericsson working with its customers on their BSS transformations? Miriam, let's start with you.
Yeah, you're right, Ray. There's plenty that's new, and that makes it exciting, right? But network slicing, we've just been talking about that. Network slicing could make customer connectivity the new normal, particularly for large enterprises. Consumers will see this in the many business-to-business to X applications that they'll experience. And we've been looking into this a lot in some blogs recently, values at the heart of network slicing was one of the positions that we took on it. And we also looked at the 3 waves of 5G network slicing. So the 3 waves are based on reports that we worked with Arthur D. Little that identified 3 different ways of network slicing that will play out over the coming years. And around that, we're thinking about the gradual build-up of BSS and OSS capabilities aligned to each of those waves. So, the first wave will be small in volumes, and it won't be as automated as it will need to be in later waves. But what we're considering is everything that needs to be put in place for discovery of these services, for ordering, activation, charging, and billing. And one of the things that's kind of jumping out at us here when we think about the enterprise customer is that to win and monetize the 5G enterprise market with services like network slicing, and CSPs have to evolve their stacks and indeed the connection points and connective tissue that goes between each component of each stack with consumer-like capabilities for enterprises and with insight to further improve the customer experience and drive growth.
And Seda, how do you view this in terms of helping customers, working with customers on their BSS transformations?
I think the key part we are focusing here is basically working closely together with OSS and core and creating a pre-integrated solution so that the network slice creation can be done on demand and in a very rapid manner. Another important aspect is the performance aspect for slice management. This will have an impact on BSS. And this is something is on top of Helena and her product development team.
And so, Helena, what does this all mean for BSS product line development, and how operators, how your customers can work with it to help with their 5G monetization?
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah, for reminding me what is on top of my mind. Absolutely so. What we see or think is that the network slicing will be used for CSPs as a start as an internal tool to optimize their networks, right? Away from one size fits all, like Miriam talked about. Later, we will see the slices becoming commercialized and even selling slices for contained private networks, right? And that is, of course, expecting us to provide capabilities for offer configuration, sales network management, and service orchestration, but nonetheless also onboarding of customers and the charging requirements in these slices. So for me, this is a really interesting arena to now enhance the product capabilities and meet this demand. And you can understand that we're not only talking about the normal traditional subscription model we have had in the past, but bringing on the water and electricity meters puts a different demand on the systems from a slice point of view.
So a great way to end. Monetization is such an important part of the whole 5G story. Well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you to Helena, Seda and Miriam for joining us and giving us their insights. And a reminder that this is just episode 1 of Let's Talk About 5G Monetization. Make sure you join us for episode 2 on January the 20th, 2022. In the meantime, please send in any questions you might have for our specialists. And also please vote in our poll. This is a question for CSPs. And the question is, how do you rate your BSS readiness to capitalize on 5G opportunities with ecosystem partners?